Here in Nigeria, the runner-up in the recent presidential election has led a march in the capital Abuja to protest against the conduct of last month's poll. Atiku Abubakar and other members of the opposition People's Democratic Party say they'll go to court over alleged fraud. International observers said failures in the electronic transfer of results led to a lack of transparency. Meanwhile, the U.S. ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Leonard, has also criticized the Independent National Electoral Commission for their handling of last month's vote. She said the elections failed to meet Nigerians' expectations, and she urged INEC to address any challenges ahead of this weekend's governorship elections. The ruling APC party's candidate, Bola Tinubu, was declared winner of the presidential poll with 37% of votes counted. Mr. Abubakar finished second with 29%.
All the provisions of the current electoral law has been completely contravened, and we were protesting, and INEC was not listening. They were bent on going with this, announcing these results, and that's why we are protesting. In fact, this protest is going to continue for a very, very long time.
What we are here doing today is to tell the nation, INEC and the world that the Nigerian people are not comfortable with the result that was announced. What is in court is an argument on the basis of law, and the court will determine what they have to determine, but the Constitution recognizes the right of citizens to express themselves in the areas that they are not comfortable. We are here to tell the world that evidence has shown, and it has been reported by all the media all over the world, that this election was marred with irregularities. All the election observers have issued a joint press statement that indicated that this election was marred with irregularity, and they called for the correction of this result.
Well, for more on this, let's speak now to Arise's political editor and director of news, Sumner Sambo, who joins me here in the studio. Good to see you, Sumner. The opposition parties, as we could see there, the PDP, continuing with their protests and their aim to mount a legal challenge. Atiku Abubakar, who came second, leading that demonstration to INEC's offices today. Tell us about that. He was accompanied by all the big wigs in the party, wasn't he?
Yes, thank you so much, Charles. It's actually good to see the PDP taking the legal route and then going through an organized protest. This is very commendable. Unlike the APC's other version. I mean, in 2011, when the PDP was in power and Goodluck Jonathan had been declared winner, one of the parties that formed the APC in 2015, that's the Congress for Progressive Change, led by then candidate Muhammadu Buhari, didn't take their own protest the way the PDP is taking its own loss at the moment in a much more civilized way. That's, you will recall that protest actually led to the death of several Nigerians. There was chaos in the country. Even Muhammadu Buhari had to be called upon by eminent Nigerians to try to quell the protests and all of that. But in 2015, he was successful. So despite the grievances, there's something that must be learned by other political parties here. Here's a former ruling party that's behaving itself very well, going to court, not taking to the streets initially, and then being able to organize the protest in such a way that it doesn't go out of control.
A peaceful
very commendable.
Protest, yeah.
Yes. Now, let's go on to the flip side. The PDP should have seen this coming. I mean, everyone kept saying that the only way to defeat the All Progressives Congress was for all the opposition political parties to come together, just the way the same Atiku Abubakar came together with them, Muhammadu Buhari and others in 2015 to dislodge the PDP, whose ticket he held in 2019 and then in this election. So it was very clear that the lack of cohesion within the opposition actually gave the APC a win, because if you juxtapose it with the discourse by the PDP, the Labour Party, and the NMPP, I mean that's 13 clear million over that of double. Over that of the APC's candidate, 8 million. But Charles, what really worries me is for the fact that this election had the lowest turnout that we've ever seen. I mean, about less than 25 million people came out to vote, compared to the 2019 elections, compared to 2015 elections, something is actually wrong.
But is that a real low turnout? Because what they count is the number of people who voted, and people are saying that millions more turned out to vote, but were prevented from voting.
Well, yeah, there's a mix actually as to what you are saying. But the reality is that if we had 84 million registered voters in 2019, and you could see we had roughly about 30 million people coming out to vote, then how come we have 87 million people who collected the PVCs, despite the fact that we had 93 million registered people, 87 million people, and we're having just less than 25 million people coming to vote?
That's a good question.
Something is actually wrong.
Absolutely.
The Electoral Authority, INEC itself, owes us an explanation as to what happens to logistics, why Nigerians didn't come out when the turnout was expected by everyone to have been higher than previous elections.
Absolutely.
And that's why you see the opposition can actually come out to the streets to protest, because something is wrong somewhere.
Something is not clear, and you're absolutely right. And that's possibly one of the reasons why the US ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Leonard, said the presidential election failed to meet the expectation of Nigerians. How important is her assessment?
Very important. The U.S. has been a critical partner in supporting our elections. There have always been fears, including within the governing All Progressives Congress, that the U.S. May have wanted to tamper with the outcome of the result. I mean, the thinking within the APC apparatchik was that maybe the support was tilting towards the Labour Party's candidate and all of that. But I mean, the U.S. authorities said that they were not involved in the election. Theirs was to provide logistic support to INEC. And of course, they showed that. They provided a lot of logistic support. There was a sign of non-interference at some point. But what we are surprised is that actually INEC did not live up to some of the expectations. While in the sense that there may be a glitch, a technical glitch as to the uploading of results, nonetheless, when you still have up till now results still being loaded in an election that took place over a week ago, then something tells us that something is wrong actually, Charles. And that's why I see members of the opposition are angry. It's not necessarily because of the results. Some of us had seen some of these tendencies that the results were going to be like this, but it's just that INEC itself not following its own rule gives a lot of room for a lot of interpretation, and the U.S. authorities are right to actually say that, look, despite all our support, the support of the international community, we don't think this election went the way it was expected to be.
Absolutely. And there is, of course, another election, a governorship election coming up in a few days' time. We're going to have to see if INEC is up to that challenge.
Yes, but this has discredited a lot of things, and we just hope they live up to expectations.
Well, we'll watch and see, and I'm sure you'll be keeping a weather eye on it. Sumner, thank you very much indeed. Sumner is Arise's political editor and director of news.